John Fenn, I'm delighted to have you here today to talk about your brother, Dan Fenn.
Well, that's a spiffy idea.
Okay,
And
so what was it like growing up with him?
Well, he was, of course, 10 years older. So that's a considerably, or 11 years. That's a big gap.
Right.
So our relationship was governed in part by that. He was a neat guy and a great brother. I remember particularly the memory I have always that comes to mind first was the Valentine's Day blizzard in Boston, somewhere around the 30s or 40s. I should have looked it up, but whatever. And it was a classic mega snowstorm, and of course, no school, et cetera, et cetera. So he and I, mostly he and me assisting, built the most marvelous snow igloo kind of fort.
Oh.
We dug into a great drift, and I just had the greatest time with that. That was simply wonderful. Then also there was the advent of World War II, and I can remember when President Roosevelt gave the Day of Infamy speech and declared war or whatever. And my parents said to me, well, now Danny is going to have to go off to war. Well, it decimated me to know that my older brother was charging off to a dangerous unknown. And when he got back, he hadn't matured and was a sort of different person, positive both times, but I guess our generation gap, which was large, grew a little larger after he got back, and then he was getting married, et cetera, et cetera. So that was an interesting change. Right. But he took me, I think, to 2 shows. I'm not dead sure. He took me to Oklahoma, the original production.
Oh, wow. Lucky you.
Oh, you better believe it. And of course, I have had a life in the theater. I'm a voice and member of Equity and Actors Equity, et cetera, et cetera. And also a playwright. So that was one of the big influences on my life. And it moved me tremendously. But the show, the second show, which I think he may have brought me to, was Brigadoon, which influenced me more. I just adored that show and always have, and later came to direct it, I think. Yeah.
Oh, you
some
directed.
music theater. Yeah.
Wow. How old
Uh,
were you when you saw these shows? Do you remember that?
well, it was, I think, right after the war.
Okay.
Um, so it was 45. I was born in 34. So I was at 10, maybe 9,
Yeah.
and
Okay.
so forth. Oh, yeah. Then the other story, we both went to the same prep school for boys, and we both had the same Latin teacher named Jimmy Reeves. However, he had become, by the time I took the course, the man had become senile, but really, he could barely function. And he had this gesture, which Danny always reminded me of. He goes, all the time. So I, who was as accomplished in Latin as I am now in interspace travel or launching a ballistic missile, got by very easily because he wasn't paying attention to my god awful translations. But the thing that tied it up with Danny was I looked on my report card, and I read stubbornly opinionated when proven wrong. And I thought, geez, I wonder where in the hell that came from. Well, I was, yeah. And he laughed and said, oh, that's me. He's just confused the two of us, and has written, because I had a big argument with him, and it went down to the dictionary and blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
And being a good Unitarian boy, both of us, Danny always questioned everything. And so that's the Jimmy Reeves story. And
Prep
let's see
school was
what
it?
else I have.
What prep school?
Brown and Nichols. And it's the same school
Yeah.
my father went to. Oh, gosh. I just thought of another memory, big key memory. Holy smoke. He would take me. I'm glad I thought of this. I didn't know where I was. I made a little list here. We would go to the Harvard Yale game at the Harvard Stadium.
Yeah.
And if we won the game, we would do a snake dance down Mount Auburn Street through Harvard Square, where everybody links arm and you go down a big victory thing and sing songs, etc. But Danny always stopped off at the Tasty Sandwich Shop right in the middle of Harvard Square.
Yeah.
And the Tasty had, I strongly feel that my grandfather had hot dogs at the Tasty, and we would have hot dogs at the Tasty. And years later, I brought my granddaughter to the Tasty, and we had a hot dog. And they were the best hot dogs in the world because they had a grill that toasted the buns.
Uh-huh.
Now, I would swear that they had exactly the same grill when I took my granddaughter there as I had years before when my brother took me there. And the hot dogs were, I think, at very first 5 cents. And then they went up to 10 cents.
Oh, big money.
Oh, yeah, I tell you. Yeah. So that was a great moment. Now, he was an amazing man because in his later year, oh, yes, we had this conversation. And I said, you know, Dan, I don't know what's happening, but I used to, I'm supposed to be forgetting stuff and memory and all that jazz because I'm 70s or 80s or whatever. And guess what? It's not happening. I'm not having memory issues. As a matter of fact, the bloody mind has gotten twice as alert and twice as fast and remembering twice as much. And he said, well, you know, I have the same problem. And he was 95 and 96 at the time. And boy, I tell you, he remembered everything, not one lost marble. And he remembered our trip to London and the things that we did there. And he always had right up until when he died, he was a paragon of mental activity. And of course, he was 2 weeks before he died, or 3 or whatever, he had just finished a full-time course, teaching a full-time course at Harvard Business. And I think it's in political science, and was making plans to continue full-time teaching as a professor, adjunct professor or whatever. And every time he talked to them about retiring, he said, look, I'm getting a little old here, and I think maybe I should think he's in his late 90s. I have a feeling I should retire or think about retiring. And they said, no, you can't retire. You can't. We won't let you go. We'll give you a driver to drive you in from Lexington to the course and drive you back. And you can't leave us.
What a wonderful
And his evaluations were always exquisite.
Yeah, that is great. You have some good memories there.
Well, yeah, I didn't give you much opportunity to interview. I'm sorry. I just
no. I wanted you to talk. You don't need to hear my questions. If you could remember those memories, this is wonderful.
I'm just looking here, trying to see what this little note was. Oh yeah. He remembered this time apparently, which I don't really remember. I was 3 or 4, I guess, when we went to England for a year. And I can remember little flashes of things. I had to wear a little beanie cap and a suit and everything. And apparently, this was the period where they opened up the castle for people to come and walk through, etc., and look at all the goodies and
Was this
this,
Windsor,
that.
Windsor or Buckingham?
I think Buckingham,
Okay,
although
not sure.
Danny would know. um, at any rate, apparently, seeing the throne, before anybody could catch me, ran up and sat down in it.
Oh,
And I was, they didn't accept the boy regent from America.
king for the day, were you?
But he kind of remembered that, and I can't quite remember it, but it's one of the, it's hard because memories, when people tell you things, it's they become memories
Right.
after a while, and so that's an item of confusion.
What did your father do that you went to England for a year?
Oh, he's a Unitarian minister, and he did an exchange parish.
So you lived in London?
Yes. Oh God, I've remembered another story. Yeah, we lived in London. Okay, so I had moved to New York and was in the theater and blah blah blah, and we all had a big dinner at a Chinese restaurant, and this was before credit cards, and I'm sorry, I remember. And but Danny, we asked around when come to pay the check, and we found we had about just about 40 or 50 bucks between us, which didn't cover 10 meals even at that time. And so Danny said, "Oh my Lord, I'm so sorry. We forgot to bring cash. Can you take a check?" Oh no, we don't take checks here. No. And then he said, "Well, this is my ID," and he gave him the White House ID, and the guy looked at us and says, "Oh, if we can't trust you, who can we trust?" And they showed us through the kitchen, and they treated us with like royalty. It was, if you can't trust, and it became a family line, of which we have just an infinite number of little snippets like that. If we can't trust you, who can we trust? It was one of our perpetual.
Perpetual sayings.
Yeah.
Well, you did beautifully. That's a good way of ending this interview, unless you think you have something more, but that ends on a high note.
Well, yeah. Hey, it would be nice if Steve, that's our techie's name,
Yes.
could run me off an MP4 of my total thing
Yeah.
and email it out to me. I don't know if that's logistically possible or because I'd like to have all the raw footage that I just.
I'm sure we can ask him for that. That would be just fine.
Excellent.
And I will email you if there's a problem with that, but I think it'll work out just fine. And you can keep that because those are wonderful memories that you should keep for your own sake too.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'll keep them in the family,
Right.
yeah, and then you cut and paste and
Right.
take out the boring stuff and whatever.
Oh, that. This will end up, what I understand, we're taking bits. Yesterday or 2 days ago, we did Bert, his friend Bert, I can't remember the last, Huberman. And we'll do you, and then we'll do Mary Preston, who's another friend. And then I gather we're supposed to interview the grandkids, Tom and Ann and what else. And then
Yeah.
and I believe it's Ann who's planning to put this all together as a video for the celebration of his life.
Perfect.
Okay. And then we'll integrate other videos because he's done a lot of things. But having his brother's recollections from when you were a little boy and he was chasing you down to the king's throne, this will be great. So I thank you for your time today. Okay. And we will
All
get
right. Well,
okay.
it was lots of fun, and I'm glad. Jesus, I was worried I wouldn't have enough goodies, but I probably have so far too much.
Right. No, that was great. Tell me, where were you you were a music producer, you said?
Well, I was in the theater in one way or another. So I worked for Joe Papp and Central Park, and did many shows at the Delacorte Theater and road shows. I worked with Robert Joffrey Ballet, not as a dancer, but as a stage manager. And I acted a lot in college and some afterwards. And what can I tell you? I was.
That's good. Aren't you glad you're not on Broadway this year?
Oh yes, ma'am. Oh, I feel so badly for those folks, and I've sent them a little money, and I plan to send some more when and if I get some more.
Okay.
But I suffer from playwright's impecuniosity.
Oh, good word. Okay, well, I thank you.